Hi, I'm Richard Roper. Welcome to Tales of the Apocalypse, a 31-day movie fest from the Blockbuster Studio here on Dish. Who doesn't like scary movies like roller coaster rides and Halloween? The scary movie is a childhood ritual that's equally appealing to adults of all ages. Every night this month, we're featuring some terrific end-of-the-world films as we know it. In just a few minutes, the grandfather of the current zombie craze, the one that really started it all, George Romero's classic Night of the Living Dead. Also tonight, we begin our countdown of the 31 best end-of-the-world films, A to Z, apocalypse to zombie.
Next on our countdown is equal parts cult classic and straight-up bloodbath. 1985 film Reanimator splatters into spot number 12.
How can you teach such drivel? These people are here to learn, and you're closing their minds before they even have a chance.
A true gore fest, Reanimator is a sci-fi horror film about a med student involved in an experiment to reanimate dead people. Although Reanimator doesn't feature zombies, it definitely brings the dead back to life.
He's dead? Not anymore.
Our resident panel of zombie experts weighs in on this cult classic.
One of my favorite comedy horror movies is Reanimator.
Yeah. Kind of a take on the Frankenstein,
Yep.
Mary Shelley's Frankenstein.
The doctor carrying around his own head. I mean, it's very obviously done in a way where you can tell how they did it, but they didn't care. They're just like, we're going to go with this, and you're either going to like it or you're not. And a lot of people probably don't like it, but I love the movie.
Mr. West. You'll never get credit for my discovery. Who's going to believe a talking head get a job in a sideshow?
It will scare you to pieces.
Our feature presentation tonight is Reanimator. It's based on the H.P. Lovecraft story, Herbert West, Reanimator. There are as many laughs as screams in this film, and blood, lots and lots of blood. Let's just say I wouldn't recommend you wear white tonight, besides the fact that it's after Labor Day. 24 gallons of blood are spilled in this film you're about to see. Fake blood, for the most part. And now a film from 1985 that continues to be good to the very last drop. Here it is, Reanimator.
Film number 9, Mad Max 2, The Road Warrior.
You want to get out of here? You talk to me.
In this classic post-apocalyptic action film, Mel Gibson plays Max.
Anyone's gonna get in there, it's gonna be you.
His character rediscovers humanity by helping a community of people defend themselves against a violent gang of marauders.
I'm gravely disappointed that you wish to take the gasoline out of the wasteland.
Defend the fuel.
In a Dish exclusive interview, director Ruben Fleischer talks about the movie's attention to detail that inspired his film, Zombieland.
Road Warrior was a huge influence on Zombieland, just in terms of the post-apocalyptic nature of the film, the landscape of it, the way they kind of altered their car. We had a snowplow on the front of Woody's truck, which was very Mad Max inspired. The driving aspect of it, which is a big part of Zombieland, was spent in the car. And just this sort of like civilization that has to define itself, you know, after a significant chaos has occurred.
You can run, but you can't hide!
From the lady zombie perspective, Mel Gibson is at maximum sexy in Road Warrior. I will take the mullet. It's all right.
Speaking as a heterosexual zombie, I have to agree. He's damn sexy.
Thank you.
Well, from a gay zombie perspective, I was just waiting until part 3 when Tina Turner came in. I thought that's what the Road Warrior
Thunderdome. Yeah.
Scratching our way to number 7, A Boy and His Dog. A young Don Johnson plays a teenager scavenging to survive when he's lured into a secret society that wants him to impregnate their women.
You mean you want me to knock up your broad?
Well, I can push back the wrong attitude fails your day authority.
A Boy and His Dog was not successful when it was released in 1975, but later developed a cult following. Our resident panel of zombie experts gives us their take on this post-apocalyptic tale.
I think Boy and His Dog is kind of falling to obscurity, but it used to be a great staple for cult midnight movies. I know I've seen it there at least once or twice.
It's very similar to Mad Max. Don Johnson is the star.
The only movie that he's ever been in that I like.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the telekinetic connection that he's got with the dog and him.
As a dog person, I always feel like I have that same connection with my dog. I talk in her voice sometimes. So I loved that movie because I was like, yeah, it's just like me and Baba, a girl and her dog.
Try to get back as quick as I can. Will you wait?
For a while. Then over the hill.
I randomly fell upon it, but I've recommended it to a lot of people because it is the best thing Don Johnson's ever done, hands down. And it does have that really cool apocalyptic Mad Max vibe, but with a little more humor, for sure.
Yeah, well, with the talking dog.
Yeah, talking dog. That dog should have won the Academy Award that year.
You're right.
It gets up and kills. The people it kills get up and kill. This situation must be controlled before it's too late. They are multiplying too rapidly.
Director George Romero awakens the dead and joins our list for film number 6, Dawn of the Dead. The 1978 movie was Romero's first sequel to Night of the Living Dead. Romero intentionally wrote the screenplay to be more comedic because he wanted it filmed more like a comic book, and zombie fanatics like our panel of resident zombie experts were not disappointed.
They must be destroyed on sight.
Dawn of the Dead is such a great movie, and I'm usually really resistant when there's modern remakes of any of those original zombie classics, but I do actually really enjoy the Dawn of the Dead Zack Snyder remake that came out a few years ago.
Yeah.
Is one of the best zombie remakes ever. The zombies are horrifying. They're super crazy fast.
Yeah.
You still have the mall. It took Romero's classic and slightly improved upon it, which is like almost impossible to do.
Yes. Yeah, they had a lot longer makeup time per zombie, like 3 hours or something is what I've heard.
That was probably unheard of.
It's a long time.
Tom Savini doesn't mess around.
Tom Savini also makes a great cameo in the film as one of the motorcycle gang
Yep, in his black leather jacket.
In his black leather jacket. I always cheer when I see him. I get really excited. He's one of the greatest makeup artists of zombie films, but horror films in general.
Be sure to join me next Saturday for the top 5 end-of-the-world films, and we'll be playing the #1 film in our countdown next Saturday, October 27th at 8 Eastern on Blockbuster Studio Channel 102. And now our second feature tonight, The Host from South Korea. Universal Studios has announced that it wants to make a sequel to this cult hit with Gore Verbinski producing. But as of now, there's only one The Host, and it starts right now.
Now we're down to our final 5 and another classic, Invasion of the Body Snatchers takes over at the 5 spot. It's a story about human beings replaced by aliens. Based on a book by Jack Finney, Invasion of the Body Snatchers has been adapted to the screen several times. Philip Kaufman's 1978 film was well received and featured humans whose bodies were cloned by aliens. Our resident panel of zombie experts puts their brains to work on this cult classic.
I think one of the more interesting universes that's come out of horror and sci-fi is the universe created by Invasion of the Body Snatchers, which back in the 50s, when this first film came out, it sort of took a little bit of like George Romero's own sort of subtextual conversation about what was going on in society. And definitely this idea of any of us could be taken over by a pod person and just replaced is really kind of terrifying.
And it also taps in with you don't know who to trust. Yeah, I think the Body Snatchers really taps into that paranoia, that xenophobic attitude that humans have.
And all your loved ones and friends and family still look the same and they act the same, but they're not the same. They're a pod person, they're a doppelganger, they're
an abomination.
Right.
Just top notch from beginning to end.
Absolutely. Great movie.
We're getting closer to the top of our list, but first, our #2 film is full of guts and gore. It is Dead Alive. Get ready for a bloodbath in this 1993 horror film by director Peter Jackson. It's about an overbearing mother who turns into a zombie after she's bitten by a bizarre creature. Director Ruben Fleischer tells us in our exclusive interview how shocked he was when he first saw Dead Alive.
You know, having seen Lord of the Rings and Heavenly Creatures, I thought of Peter Jackson in one way, but when I went and actually saw Dead Alive and was seeing people being put in a blender and like the crazy hack job that the guy does, it's definitely, I think, the goriest bloodbath movie I've ever seen, I think.
Our resident panel of zombie experts also gave us their take on Dead Alive.
A really good first date movie, Dead Alive.
Dead Alive.
Dead Alive.
One of the most ridiculous movies ever made, not just horror movies, but any movie ever made. It's just so violent that it It tops just about anything else I can think of.
There's something you never thought you would see in a movie, like any kind of violent act. It's in Dead Alive.
It's so over the top, you gotta love it.
It's great.
We've reached the culmination of our countdown. Films from A to Z, apocalypse to zombie. Now for the #1 movie on our list of the greatest end-of-the-world classics of all time. One of the scariest movies ever, Night of the Living Dead. Released in 1968, the film is about a group of people penned up in an old farmhouse and attacked by zombies. It led to a series of Dead movies directed by George Romero that revolutionized the genre and created a cult following.
Night of the Living Dead.
I don't think you can make a zombie movie without paying tribute to George Romero. Night of the Living Dead is really the originator of the genre and incredibly influential, and also just a great movie.
A night of total terror.
Night of the Living Dead and Dawn of the Dead prove beyond doubt that George Romero is America's and perhaps the world's most underrated film director.
One of my very, very favorite zombie movies of all time. Still holds up so well to this day, so creepy, so scary. The zombies are still totally effective, even though it's all like makeup and practical effects. They're so slow, but they're still just so horrifying. Great movie.
Amen.
Night of the Living Dead.
And now we have the #1 film on our countdown. It's the film credited with resurrecting the zombie movie in Hollywood, even though the word zombie is never used in this film. George Romero's feature debut, made for just $116,000, is one of the most successful independent films ever. Here is Night of the Living Dead.